Mary Blake is her name, and our conversation this morning is brought to you by Marcus and Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Mary, good morning.
Hi, Todd. How are you this morning?
Wonderful, and it's great to have you with us today. But my goodness, this is a serious topic. Gosh, what is the
I
parole?
know.
What is this parola stuff? What's that?
Yeah, so Parola is basically another mutated variant from the Omicron strain that I think we saw was it a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And basically, it's got several more mutations on its spike protein that has people concerned that will make it more virulent and more effective.
Yeah, so it's probably the strongest one since Omicron, would you say?
Well, it's got more changes. You know, that's kind of a relative term. So it's different in that regard that it's changed a little bit. But what I think would be nice, what public health professionals and experts would say is that that's actually normal for viruses to do. That's why we keep getting the flu every year, because they change. That's why we have the same viruses that we do from years and years ago, because just by design, how they were created by the creator, they change. And so one thing that we should probably focus on more is, or focus on, in addition, rather, is how the body reacts to these changes.
So we shouldn't be extremely frightened, as some of the headlines seem to make us want to be. It's not something we should be afraid of, but it's something we should attack proactively.
Oh, yeah, that's a great way you put it. There's a phrase that we learned in school, and it says, "When you don't understand, you fear, and when you fear, you hate." And the last thing that I personally want, and I think a lot of people on the higher end want, is for people to make a decision solely based on fear, based on their lack of knowledge. You know, whether you decide to do something or not to do something, it should be because you're understanding the advantages and the disadvantages.
Yeah. All right, Mary. So help us to bat down some of the misconceptions that might be out there about Parola or about COVID-19 as a whole. Number one, it only attacks us when we're in a vulnerable state. That's the only time is when we have some sort of condition that allows it in.
No, that's not true. So it is true that that's when you have the higher likelihood of developing symptoms or becoming susceptible, since it is transmitted through water droplets, through the air, or through someone coughing or sneezing or respiratory droplets. Yes, when you are at a vulnerable or immunocompromised state, you are more vulnerable to developing it. However, if you are just, walking, going about your day, someone just sneezes in your face, or I travel a lot for work, I'm sitting by strangers in a plane every week.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually got sick. I actually got it myself the first week of January. That's how I brought my New Year in. And I think it was just through travel. So you are likely susceptible to it any time.
Yeah, well, see, I'm worried about talking to you over the phone. It might make it spread.
Hey, that's a myth. You cannot get it through the phone.
Man, I'm happy about that.
Right.
Mary, all right, here's another thing, is that just because we're hearing about Parola now, that means the scientific community is just hearing about it too. That's not true, is it?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that first part.
Just because I'm just hearing about Parola now doesn't mean that the scientific community is just hearing about it. They've known about it for a while.
Oh, so I first heard about it, to be honest, only maybe 2 months ago, October, November. So I can't answer for like the CDC or the WHO, to be perfectly honest.
Hmm.
All I know is that the people get the majority of their information from the news, who gets the majority of their information from like the CDC and WHO. So I know I start hearing about it. I want to say no November, late October, November. So I'm assuming that all of our regulatory agencies maybe have known about it a little bit beforehand because they've got to name the thing, right? So
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
to you have to know, enough about it to say, okay, this is a different strain, or this is a different variant, or this is, slightly
Hmm.
altered. Let's call it this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm assuming that they knew about it beforehand before they start releasing the information, but I don't know how much beforehand they would know.
Mary Blake is with us this morning, a healthy living expert, clinical research associate. Mary, one of the things that I find most interesting is the reaction to the measures that were taken the first time around, whether they were in one direction or the other. The people were very, very much married to whatever it
Mhm.
was that their position was, and so what it means to me is that as these next wave of viruses come along, or down the road as viruses become more and more prevalent, we're going to have even more virulent reactions to it, and we're going to stick to our guns even more, which will make it harder to bat down something, won't it?
It definitely could. Yeah, and I'm glad you phrased it that way. That's a really eloquent way of putting it.
Oh, I stumbled
So,
all through that.
oh, well, great job. That's why you do a great job at radio and media, because that sounds so eloquent. I was like, wow, this guy, maybe he's in public health too, and I just didn't know.
But are we going to
um,
have difficulty convincing people that this is what needs to be done when there's something that happens big like the first time around?
yeah, yeah. To agree to your point earlier, I think so, and I think for a couple different reasons. So, number one, to agree with your point, yes, people did really, I guess the word is politicize, and there were other factors that went into that, but politicized when COVID came out, and that polarity really kind of sparked some divide. If you agree with it one way, then you're this. If you do this way, you're this. But what ends up happening is that you really public health officials and people who work in healthcare, just for the sake of the public's health, end up being the losers in that situation, because when people are making decisions based on either what they see on social media or propaganda or the limited information that they've been told by others. What we were talking about earlier, so what you don't understand, you fear, and what you
Mhm.
fear, you hate. And a lot of times that drives your decision. So, come this, new novel virus coming out, it's scary, and when you start throwing out words that you've never heard before, and all these terms, and a very highly technical, very highly scientific, a lot of times it's, people who are going to either say, you know what, I don't know what it is, but I'm just gonna I'm just gonna do what they say. They're the experts. I'm just gonna follow it, and I'm just gonna, whatever they say I need to do, I'm just gonna do it, and they just go for that. Or it's very dramatic on the other way, and drastic, and they say, you know what, I don't know what they say, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
And
trust
so,
issue.
exactly, and so we try to understand at the end of the day is that people are making the best decision in their opinion for the protection and safety of themselves and their families and their community.
Mhm.
They're doing the best they can for with the limited knowledge that they have. And so that means that we in the public health sector have to do a better job at not just the knowledge and the content that's delivered, but the way it's delivered. The way you speak about this to, say, a 10-year-old, it's going to be different than the way you speak about it to a college student. It's going to be different the way you speak about it to an elder or a senior. Different the different ethnicities, different cultures, different religions. They all look at these type of outbreaks slightly different. So I think moving forward, one of the biggest things I've learned is you really have to tailor your message to the crowd. And the more you can help them to understand, the less they will fear it. And then whatever decision they make, it won't be out of fear of I hate it or fear of I throw my hands up because I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to go along with it. So also the final point is there was a lot of there was a lot of expectation, and this is so deadly, and so this could be another huge thing, and it's going to kill a lot of people. And the public health sector is also doing the best they can. If you look at viruses like Ebola, that was a super deadly virus, and it still is. I mean, the mortality rate is like 75%. Granted, it's a completely different virus. Luckily, it's now secluded to very, very small rural villages in India and Africa, places like that. However, what you don't know, you don't know. So I think initially the huge push for everybody stay home and sequester and just stay away, I think it was out of fear of, instead of this virus being more of a mild flu-like, with just looking like that's what it's coming out to be, maybe a little bit more serious than the flu, but certainly not as the higher mortality rate of Ebola. But I guess in the beginning, you don't know. So that was really the premise of why they were pushing for people to be on the safe side until they got some more information about it. But now we have a lot of options. Vaccination, as always, is an option. As always, doctors now give patients the options of really developing a healthy immune system if that is not your choice. That way you do have adequate white blood cells, neutrophils, fighter cells to fight off the virus if you do get sick.
Yeah.
It was a long answer. I hope it answered your question.
Mary, thank you so much. I think the only thing I trust in really is the power of lasagna for healing, but that's a whole nother conversation. Okay. Mary Blake, thank you, and have a wonderful day today. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful day as well.
All righty. Bye-bye.